Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Come on, Dre.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Tripping with Theo Bowl. I'm your host, Andre Theo Bowl. Welcome to the show. Glad you guys could tune in. Welcome to the show. Oh, that's not cool. Uh-oh. Give me 2 seconds. Oh. Okay, that's what's happening. That's my replay. At least I know my audio's working. I'm good. I'm catching up. My bad, guys. Had a little technical difficulties, Still having technical difficulties. God damn, I had all this shit worked out. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. See what's going on here now. Hopefully I don't hear my voice, but hopefully you can hear mine. Because I have all these windows open and I'm trying to get my production where it needs to be at. And yeah, I moved some files around, man, and I tried to organize myself to be more efficient, and look what happened, right? Like nothing's even coming up here, man. This is unacceptable, right? Like I'm not even seeing. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and because my logos aren't where they're supposed to be at, and nothing's where it's supposed to be at, and I just did all. Yep. Okay. That. You know what? AT is where it's at on most forms of social media, so make sure you follow me. That's where normally my handle would be at, or my handles. They don't want to show up. Yeah. Anywho, welcome to the show. Glad y'all could tune in. Yeah, so for today's episode, man, we are going to be, let me just go ahead and jump right up on into it. So there was an incident, an alleged incident on YouTube within the past 2 weeks. It was on the Arena podcast, aka or formerly known as Gil's Arena. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So go ahead and pull up some things for myself. So what actually happened, right? So let's go ahead and let me go ahead and break that whole situation down to the best of my ability, right? So there was an incident on, like I said, Gil's Arena, or the Arena, as it's now called, where Kenyon Martin, former NBA player, checked a producer on the show live, or it was live, but it's because I don't think they shoot live streams. I think they record and then they chop up and edit. Like this is a live stream. Y'all gonna see all my flaws. I'm not editing shit, right? I want y'all to see the process. I want y'all to see what goes on behind the kitchen, right? Like I want y'all to like this is like when you go to McDonald's. I don't eat there no more, but when you go to McDonald's, how you got the presentation on the side of the customer and everything looks good, smells good, but then you work in that kitchen and you got people stepping on hamburger patties with Timberland boots and then still cooking them and serving them. I want y'all to see all that. I want you guys to see the process, right? We ain't doing none of that trifleness over here and Tripping with Theo Boldland, but I'm not perfect. That's the whole point why I go live. I want people to see like what happens, like I feel like, I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm tripping right now. Hence the name Tripping with Theo Bolt, right? My AC kicked on, right? See, everything's happening right now. So I'm owning it, you know? Uh anyways, Kenyon Martin, let's stay on topic. Kenyon Martin is a former NBA player who is a recurring guest or a co-star on the podcast called The Arena, which was formerly known as Gil's Arena. And what happened was uh Kenyon Martin checked one of the producers, his name, I believe his name was Suge, and basically the producer or Suge was caught on camera um saying some very disparaging remarks to Kenyon Martin or about Kenyon Martin and his stutter, right? Um I don't know where the clip came from. Um so first off, like, we the public never saw like the clip. We just heard the audio from what Kenyon played on the phone, right? And I don't even think that was Kenyon's phone that he played it from. I think that was, I don't know whose phone that was, right? But basically, what was said in the clip, and you could kind of hear it, but what was said in the audio clip was, um, what was said in the clip was, it seemed like someone that had lower status or equal status to Suge said something along the lines of, "Hey, we want Kenyon to host an episode," and Suge's response was, like, Kenyon can't get a. This is a quote. He said he can't get a goddamn sentence out. He does all this damn stutter. He's stutter man, Um, he said he can't get a goddamn sentence out. So I'm messing up the quote, but it was along the lines of, he can't do no fucking show because he's a goddamn stutter man. He can't even get a goddamn sentence out, and it was like very harsh, right? So that's what we know, right? That's what, at least I know, right? So there's a YouTuber out there. His name is Poetic Flacco. Poetic Flacco actually added some more context to the situation or added more details. So, I'm giving credit where credit is due. Um, and Poetic Flacco, basically, his whole take on the situation is he thinks that, well, after Kenyon played the clip, he reacted to it and then made a point and then, like, checked him. He checked Suge and he said, basically he's using this as a teaching moment for like his family and stuff, you know. And he said, I have you around my house, I have you around my family, you come over to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, you eat, what I'm saying? I put money in your pocket and this is how you really feel about me. You know what I'm saying? So he basically was saying that you got to be careful about who you keep around you close in your circle because people might, like, they might say or feel a certain type of way about you, right? And they could be right up in your camp, So for all intents and purposes, what, Kenyon Martin was saying was, you know, you got to keep certain motherfuckers away from you, and this is an example, right? And Kenyon also went on uh pod or on the pod, he also said that everyone knows how he feels about his stutter. Like, it's a very sensitive topic with him. So for someone that he has close around him or someone that he has around him, that he's, inviting over for dinner and being around his family and putting money in his pocket, for him to come out and say something like this, is out of pocket. And he checked it, right? So a lot of people think that Kenyon Martin like went overboard and, I don't think Kenyon went overboard at all, right? Because people said he spazzed out or whatever. But nah, Poetic Flacco did a video um where he said that he felt like Kenyon Martin, overreacted. Um and the extra insight was uh so basically Poetic Flacco added, so the part I didn't know was, I didn't know that um one, I didn't know that that was a producer on the show, number one. Um and I didn't know that that was the producer, and I didn't know how the situation even started. All we heard was, oh, there was a clip, and Kenyon just reacted to a clip that he saw on the phone, and that was it, right? So here's the thing, man. So Blanco said that he thinks that Kenyon overreacted because Flacco, is a stutterer, like myself, and uh um here's the thing, right? Like, I'm a I like to look at myself like a STEM player, you know? Like, I'm able to take away things that I like about a person, or things that I don't like about a person, and I look at different like categories, right? So one, I don't really care for Poetic Flacco's content. It's just not my style, you know. It's kind of like rage baity-ish, if that's even a word. I said baity-ish. but but I do respect his trajectory. I respect, like, the fact that he was on No Jumper, which is a famous podcast, and on No Jumper, um, he was in some very tense situations. Now, were those manufactured or are those fake? I don't know. Like, we don't know, right? One could postulate that those situations were all staged or whatever. Like, for example, he had a situation on No Jumper where he uh he basically would like troll rappers, or like dangerous rappers or whatever, on the podcast. And there was one rapper that got up and they got into a heated exchange, and then the rapper spit in his face, and then, no hands were thrown, but those were the kind of situations that happened on No Jumper, you know? So, um, what Flacco said about his whole take on the situation to me was, like, I disagreed with, right? He said that Kenyon Martin overreacted to the situation because Flacco was saying, look, I have a stutter, and if No Jumper told me I couldn't host the show because I couldn't get a sentence out or whatever, I wouldn't be that upset about it, you know? And, you know, um, to me, that example, um, to me, there are fallacies with that example. Like, you know, to me, there are fallacies with that example. And here's why, right? First off, um, if you watched Flacco on No Jumper in the past, um, his stutter was like more noticeable, you know, and it's because, I think it was because he was talking to people, right? And if you look at his podcast now, he's like a talking head like me, right? Where he's looking at a camera and talking into a microphone, right? So um his stutter was more noticeable. It could have been more noticeable on No Jumper because it wasn't just him talking, right? It wasn't just him talking like to himself or talking to you guys through the camera lens, right? It was a conversation that was happening, and maybe that is what triggered it. I know for me personally, I can talk to you guys like this through a lens and through a microphone, um fine. Like, I'm more comfortable doing this, or I'm more comfortable talking to 100 people at one time in an auditorium versus having a one-on-one conversation, right? It's kind of like playing, for me, it's like playing, it's like the difference between flag football and tackle football, right? It's kind of the same sport, but it's not, like there's different nuances and things that happen, and you have to approach them both differently. All right, my nose starting to mess with me right now. But so that's the one area or the one reason why I disagree with Flacco on his take on the Kenyon Martin situation. Number two, the situation really wasn't the same, right? Like if, for example, if No Jumper told Flacco that he couldn't be on the podcast because he stuttered, and they came at it like on some aggressive, like, hell no, you can't be on this podcast because he stuttered. He can't get a goddamn word out. He'd feel a type of way. He'd probably feel a type of way about that. Or maybe he wouldn't. I don't know the guy. But to me, I think you can't really weigh those two situations like equally. Um, so so yeah, I don't think Kenyon Martin overreacted at all, in regards to that. See what else, man. So what's the real issue here, right? Um, was it the intent? Was it the disrespect? Like, to me, there's so many levels to what happened with this with this Kenyon Martin incident on the arena, right? So to me, like what no one's really talking about, right, is who recorded Suge saying that about Kenyon, right? And was this all manufactured, right? Like what percentage of this was manufactured, right? Like what if they're all acting, right? Like what if they all have a hand in it? And what if the numbers for the arena aren't doing what they want them to do, right? Or let's say that the numbers aren't where they expect the numbers to be, right? And then what if this was all an act to get people talking, right? And if they did, they win because I'm talking about it. Because in the beginning of the week, I was going to do a whole different topic this week for my live stream, but I had to change midstream because this is right in my alley, right? Because in Tripping with Theo Bold, like we talk about, the reason why this podcast is called Tripping with Theo Bold is because I trip in speech and thought, right? So anything that has anything to do with stuttering, I'm jumping on it, right? That's my lane, right? Um, so so to me, that's one level, right? Like, so let's assume that what they showed us is the truth and it's like not manufactured at all whatsoever. That's what I'm moving forward with, right? Um, so the question is who shot who recorded Suge saying this, number one. And then another question I have is why is like what level of responsibility or power does Suge have? Like, for example, if an episode of the arena goes bad, or if it doesn't go according to plan or whatever, who gets blamed for that, right? So it kind of sounded like Suge was being defensive because he felt like his job was on the line, you know? Um so his so basically what's crossing the line here, right? So his reaction to me was like way out of pocket, right? The way Suge reacted to someone suggesting or him pushing for um or for whoever for pushing for Kenyon Martin to host an episode of the arena. To me, his reaction was out of pocket, number one, right? Like it was very like that came from somewhere, right? Like just the anger and the intensity in which he said it and the disrespect in which he said it, that came from somewhere, right? And like he wasn't joking, like he wasn't like joking. It was like just outright disrespect what he said to Kenyon Martin, right? There was nothing funny about it, you know? Um, so I'm gonna bring Flacco back into this too, right? Because what Kenyon, because there was another podcast too that Flacco mentioned. Um, it's called well, he actually played a clip from this other podcast called Stutter Chats, right? Spit Happens, right? Which is a dope name for a podcast where they interview athletes and people that have to deal with stuttering, you know? And it's a dope podcast. I subscribe to it. You know, I'm gonna keep checking them out. Um, but Kenyon Martin was a guest on that podcast, and he basically said when he was coming up, he was shy. You know, he stuttered growing up, and he said that people would like make fun of him or whatever. And the way he dealt with it was he put hands on he put hands on people. Like he was known to get into squabbles. He was out there scrapping, you know. So a lot of people react differently to it, you know. Um, like me personally, like when I grew up, like, like mine was like way worse than what it is now. But even now to this day, man, like if I if I slip up in front of somebody or in front of people, like nigga, I have a sick day. Nigga, that's a sick day for me, man. Like I just wanna go in my room, leave me alone. I'm like a cat that's getting ready to die, man. Just leave me in my corner for a couple hours. I'll be good, but just leave me the fuck alone, right? Like that's how like I feel about my shit, right? Not saying it's right or wrong how I deal with it, but we all deal with it in different ways, you know? Like Kenyon threw hands, you know? Me, I take a sick day, right? Puerto Flacco learned to just brush it off and not let it affect him. Um, but um, you know, and I think I think that's the silver lining in, at least with me, for having like a stutter, man, is the silver lining is I have a lot of like respect and empathy for other people that have other things that they going through, right? Like a lot of people don't know what stutterers really go through, right? The best way I can explain it to you is like this, right? It it doesn't feel like a sneeze, but it kind of behaves like a sneeze. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, like when you have a sneeze, you can kind of feel the shit coming on. So when you feel like a stutter coming on, it's like you do certain things to like counteract it, or to like prolong it. So you might talk in circles, you might extend, and you might talk a little longer. You might use different words, you might swap words in and out. You might repeat and like double clutch certain things to where you can get the confidence to get over the hump. It's kind of like that in that aspect, right? But then also like a sneeze, sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. Like you don't even see it coming. And it's like scary. You know what I'm saying? It looks funny, it's harmless, but the shit is like embarrassing and scary, you know? And when it comes to sneezing, like sneezing is socially acceptable. Like people understand, okay, it's just a reaction that we all do. We all sneeze in our life, right? But a lot of people really haven't like stuttered, like, or had a thing or had something that really prevented them from getting their words out, you know? So, like, with me, I'm empathetic towards all different types of like human phenomenon, as we should call it, right? I don't like to say the word disability because I feel like um it's not empowering, right? Um, but um I know a lot of people that go through a lot of different things that I can't even like relate to, but I know it's a thing, and I know that um I don't uh understand, even though I may not understand what that thing is, I respect that it's a thing, right? So I'm never gonna like come out of pocket and say something disparaging about someone and whatever it is that they're going through, right? That's one thing that having a stutter has done for me, is it has made me more empathetic towards um people, and just how to treat people that are different from me, you know? Um so so let's talk about mock. So when people like mock people that stutter, it's, to me it's like, it's petty, you know? Like like there are people on YouTube, I know, I'm not gonna say any names, but they mock people that do stutter or whatever, you know, because they don't agree with something that they say, uh, or they have a strong viewpoint on this one thing. And you know, and look, I don't even, so the person that stutters, I don't even agree with their viewpoint, right? Right? Like what they're talking about to me is like bogus, you know? But when people are debating them or talking out against them, you know, and they start mocking how they talk, I'm like, that to me is like petty. It's like there's no need for that, right? Because to me, what that shows is, that shows a level of ignorance. You know, it shows that they don't respect, you know, the struggle that someone else goes through, right? Because they have no idea like what it is they're even going through. Look, and here's the thing, right? Here's real talk, right? I would never wish for 1 second that people that mock people stutter could stutter for like 1 second to know how it feels. Because in my opinion, a lot of people wouldn't even know how to even deal with it. You know, like even when I first dealt with it, like I had to learn that I was even doing this shit. Like when I was young, I didn't know I was even doing it, right? So that shit is like scary, right? So I would never wish that on nobody, right? And then once I became aware of what I was doing, then there was like a lot of shame associated with it, you know? So I there's a whole lot of layers to the shit that people don't even understand. You know, there's like layers to this shit. Like on the outskirts or whatever, if that's the right word, people only see the iceberg tip. They only see the effect of someone stuttering, and it may look funny, but there's a whole lot of layers going on underneath that. If someone else had to actually experience that, they would be like, "Oh, okay, this is different." Like, you know what I mean? But anyways, I'm not gonna get hung up on that. Next thing I want to talk about is, did Kenyon Martin handle it right, and why? To me, Kenyon Martin um handled it like, the way he presented himself in that segment, to me, should that's a textbook way on how to check somebody, right? That's how you check somebody, right? Um, because here's why I like what Kenyon said and how he said it, right? Um, when I was younger, I used to go to, this kind of had the feel of being in the Master Boys and Girls Club, right? Like everything is fun and games. We're having good. We're doing arts and crafts. We're playing basketball. We hooping. You know what I'm saying? Going on field trips. But the male figures that were there, you know, they were, or our counselors, they were people that like, they drew the line for like what, they drew the line for respect, right? And if you got out of line, there was a consequence to pay. And it wasn't just getting yelled at. It was like you got hands put on you. Not hands, but you got the paddle, you know? So there was this whole line of just, hey, we're having fun in games, but we're also going to respect each other here, you know? So um I liked what Kenyon said and how he said it, because um there was a hint that some shit could pop off, right? And that's what you need. When you check somebody, there needs to be a hint of some shit that can pop off, right? like, with Kenyon being like, with him being a famous person, a celebrity, or like a famous basketball player, and with him having you know, a tall stature, he's a tall dude, and the fact that, he's known for mixing it up. Like, you don't want to mix it up with this dude. The fact that, you know, he embodied all that, to me, it's like when he was checking him, like, had that been me, it would have probably been arguing. Like, we could have, like if that was me and Suge, we probably been arguing back and forth or whatever, and shit would have probably got heated because he doesn't respect me, right? Because there's levels of disrespect, right? There's some people that don't mind disrespecting you to your face, and there's some people that know, look, I don't respect this dude, but I'm going to disrespect him behind his back, right? That's what Suge did to Kenyon Martin, right? But had I been in Kenyon Martin's shoes, Suge probably would have disrespected me to my face, right? And but the fact that he had to do it behind his back, and Kenyon checked it the way he did, it just really outlined everything, or really set a good example for how to check people. It really did it, like, it really set a precedent for how you check somebody, and he made sure that Suge didn't have a chance to talk. Like, he was like, nah, shut the fuck up, I'm talking right now. Like, this is what this is what you did, and this is why it's wrong, right? And Suge was real humble in that when he was getting checked. Suge had his head down. He was like, yeah, I like, he looked like when someone's getting checked and they got their head down and they just say, and they just taking it, like, that's a proper checking, like, there's a respect factor there that he had to respect. Because if Suge slipped up and said the wrong shit, Kenyon would have went upside that dude's head. Like, that's what Kenyon's known for doing, or at least the fear of that was present, and then the other thing that Kenyon did, or when you looked at the conversation that happened, or when he addressed the incident, was really, it was layered, right? The first part was about just the disrespect he showed for him and his stutter, right? The second thing, which was also disrespectful, was the fact that Kenyon was like, look, I have you around me. Like, I have you around my family. I have, I'm feeding you during Thanksgiving, and you act like everything is all good, but then behind my back, you disrespect me and say this shit like the way you said it, right? So that made me, like, really take a strong look at my life, right? Because a lot of us run our mouths behind people's back, you know what I'm saying? And it's always, it's easy to talk shit about someone when they're not there. But if this person was there, would you really be saying the shit that you say? Or would you really say the shit that, would you really say what you said to them to their face, right? That's where it made me really take a hard look at my life and say, okay, yeah, I gotta do a better job at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna film something and try to talk about someone on the internet to post it to get views. Like, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, and I think we all do this, right? Like, we all talk about people behind their back, So really, it's not about, it's not about not talking about behind people's back. It's just making sure that you mentally put that person there to say whatever it is you need to say to them. And when you follow me, I know I'm tripping right now. I know I'm kind of going off script, or not off script, but I'm kind of getting complicated. But in my mind, what we need to do, well, I gotta talk about me. What I need to do is, if I talk about somebody who's not present, I need to talk about them like they are present, right? That's what I have to do a better job of, because it's easy to slip up and say some shit, and then if it gets recorded, now you gotta address this person, or now you have to get addressed by this person, you know? So, um, yeah, got to work on that. Also, there's one thing that I disagreed with Kenyon Martin on, right? This is the one thing I disagree with him on. Um, like when he was checking Suge, he said that he wanted to match the same energy, right? So I feel like there's levels to this, right? Like I feel like there's the energy that Suge had against him or what he said about his stutter, right? And I think that Kenyon matched that energy when he was checking him, right? But to me, where Kenyon to me was wrong, not wrong, but to me, where I disagree with him on is it was the intent, right? Like Suge's intent was it wasn't for that to get out, right? Suge's intent was just look, this dude, you know, Suge's intent was just look, I'm trying to get my point across, and he can't do this because he can't motherfucking talk, right? That was his whole intent wasn't to embarrass him. He just didn't care about his situation, right? He just didn't care about how Kenyon felt. He didn't care, like he just did not care about his feelings or whatever in that moment, right? But Suge didn't do that to produce that, or at least it didn't give that vibe or that energy, but it didn't, the intent wasn't to, his intent wasn't to create content off of that. He just was caught off camera saying some foul shit, right? But then Kenyon wanted to say, or he wanted to match that energy, and Kenyon was like, well, I want to match this by making it public, right? So Kenyon was on the podcast, like to the whole world, and he made an example out of it, right? Or he made an example, or wanted to check this guy, but Suge's, how do I say it? Suge's intent was to just say this and keep this behind closed doors, right? But nonetheless, I'm glad it came to light because it was a good teaching. It was a good teaching moment, you know, on how to check people, and also it opened up or reopened the discussion of dealing with people that have struggles that you might not be aware of. Does that make sense? Like, what are your thoughts, man? Put it in the comments, man. Let me know. You know, um, so, and this is me just playing devil's advocate, right? Here's how the situation. Like, if I was in Suge's shoes with my knowledge or my understanding of how stuttering works or whatever, this is how I would have dealt with the situation, right? If someone came to me and was like, "Yo, we got this person on the podcast," and we all know that they struggle with speech at times, and if they came to me and they were like, "Yo, we want him to host an episode," right? I would say, okay, cool. Let's check with him to see if he wants to host the episode, right? And then I would have a side conversation with the person or the individual and be like, "Hey, man, are you interested, or how would you feel about hosting an episode?" If they were like they don't want to do it, cool, nothing to worry about. We just move on. I get back to the heads or the producers and say, "Look, man, so and so's not interested in doing an episode. Let's just move on," right? Or if he is interested, I would say, "Okay, cool. Let's sit down, or let's do a practice run. Let's just do a practice episode to see how things are going to go," right? And if we're struggling to the point to where it's like we're not able to put out the same product that we're used to putting out, since it's not live streamed, we could say, let's put a pause on this, and what we have to do, let's grow him into being able to host, right? You could say, let's give him a segment to where he introduces a topic or whatever, and then he has to moderate for um a quick 5 minutes or whatever, or have it be a small segment, and then you grow the segment out, right? Because the one thing, right, like a lot of people didn't know Kenyon Martin even stuttered like that. I didn't know he stuttered, you know? I always thought growing up, I thought he had Tourette's or whatever. That's what I remember hearing when I was younger, when I watched him hoop or whatever. But I never knew like he had a stutter, and he never really talked about it like that, right? Now he has talked about it on other episodes or whatever, and people know how he felt about it, but I didn't know. So the fact that he came from where he was when he was younger, right, to where it probably was more noticeable, and the fact that now it's not as noticeable, that means that he can improve, right? So if he could improve on that, or in that respect, why couldn't he improve with being a host, right? So that would have been the more appropriate way to that's how I would have handled the situation if that were the case, right? But I don't know all the facts, right? I don't know, if this was all clickbait or whatever. Like I don't know. But from what was presented, I think that Kenyon Martin did a phenomenal job of checking somebody, right? Um because think about it, right? Like that was a tense moment. He could have not messed up. He could have like stuttered in that moment. And then Suge could have probably started laughing, and then we would have had fireworks, right? So the fact that, all that, the fact that you know, he was able to get his point across, and he did it in a way where it wasn't disrespectful, but he also let you know this is not some shit you play with. Phenomenal job. That to me is a textbook job on how you check somebody. So what else we got, man? So I got a little gnat that's in here. Pardon the pun. It's baseball season, Nationals opening week, Nats, and I have a gnat in here. Okay, I didn't just do that. That was corny. Um, so yeah, man. So let me. So yeah. So that's kind of like that's pretty much it, right? I had to get a sip of this water right quick, man. I was getting thirsty. But yeah, but it was there were some red flags when I saw the clip, because it kind of looked staged, you know. It kind of the whole when I look back from it, like I'm taking a just outward look at it. It kind of looks staged because everyone was quiet, and the fact that it's a podcast that they edit, who knows? They could have did multiple takes on that, right? To try to get clickbait, or to try to get um the views up, you know. Um, but this is something else. So this is me tripping in thought right now, right? I know I'm probably gonna lose a couple people on this, or lose everybody on this, but this is just me thinking out loud, right? So to me, this situation is kind of analogous to the it's not one to one, but it's analogous to the whole Donald Sterling situation when he got caught on tape saying what he said about Magic Johnson and black people, right? Um it's analogous in the sense where, one, they're speaking out of ignorance, right? Um where Suge to me, like his tone and his demeanor it was um it was harsh, and it was borderline like hateful, you know what I'm saying? Just how he said it and what he said. But also it was ignorant because he doesn't stutter, so he doesn't like he's not educated on the subject. He doesn't know what goes on. So he was basically like kind of like, he was just flapping off at the mouth, you know? And when you look at the Donald Sterling situation, um, you know, he was ignorant of black people. He was ignorant of, you know, and I'm not defending him, but the one thing when you listen to that audio tape when V. Stiviano was secretly recording him or secretly recording Donald Sterling in his house saying the disparaging comments he said about black people, if you notice, he didn't use any slurs, right? He didn't use any racial slurs. It was just, this is how, like, he really just believed this, right? Like, it was like ingrained in him, like, this is how black people are, and this is how he feels towards black people, you know? So to me, you know, and I don't want to, maybe this is a whole other topic, right? Maybe this is something I bring up down the road, but in my understanding or um in my opinion, the way the NBA handled that situation with Donald Sterling was, it was wrong, right? Like the way they handled the situation with Donald Sterling was wrong because it looked like um one, it looked like they were really trying to protect the image and the reputation of the NBA versus actually trying to root out the cause um of what transpired, right? Because if you listen to what Donald Sterling said, it sounded like he was trying to fit in with other racist owners, right? So it's like, who are the other racist owners, right? That to me, it's like the NBA should have had, you know, right? They should have basically had, uh, they should have given Donald Sterling a choice, right? Either one, we make you the witch hunt, like we basically go after you in the witch hunt, and we publicly, you know, take your team away and make you look bad, which is what they did, or you wear a wire and you hang around other owners, and we're trying to figure out, you know, who else is part of this clique, right? Like, or who else thinks like this, right? So what they did is they basically just made him an example. They basically used Donald Sterling as an example, so other owners are like, hey, look, okay, yeah, this is not cool, we can't do that, you know? But anyways, I'm not trying to get in on that or touch too much on that. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of times, you know, people, really what I'm trying to get at is, by bringing this situation up, is behind the scenes, or when people are in private, people should have a degree of privacy to work through and understand whatever it is that they need to understand, you know? Like, you should be able to be in a safe space. Like, if, like me, I'm in my home right now, right? But I'm talking to the podcast world, right? So whatever I say can be used and held against me, right? I know that risk. But if I had the cameras off, and if I'm in my home, and if I'm in my house, and if I'm trying to understand life, and if, like, I should be able to be free to come to I should be able to be free to come to the correct conclusion, or to the right conclusion, or a better conclusion, right? Because what is right and what is, I mean, we know what right and wrong is, but I should be able to um have the freedom to understand, or to come to the conclusion of what right is, right? Like, a lot of people, if you think about, a lot of people live in fear, right? And they just know what's frowned upon, but they don't know why it's frowned upon, right? They just know, oh, if I say this, I get this money took, or if I say this, I lose my job, right? A lot of people, right? And we shouldn't be like, if you're in your privacy of your own home, and if you were raised a certain way, you should have um enough time or privacy in your home to get the bullshit out, right? So when I look at the situation with Suge and Kenyon Martin, he felt the way he felt. It was wrong. It was fucked up. But to me, it's like, That's some shit that you correct behind closed doors, right? So I'm not blaming Kenyon for that. I'm blaming whoever took the video and showed Kenyon, right? Because whoever took the video, they should have sat old boy down, or they should have sat Suge down and been like, look, what you said is fucked up, right? Like, there's no way around it. You know what I'm saying? So, since I took the video, first of all, why are we I mean, why are we recording shit? Right? That's the question, right? Like, why are we recording um why are we recording and then kind of sneak putting, the recording to other people, right? That's like real gossipy. But nah, it's there should be a degree or a level or an area where people can feel uh maybe this is a byproduct of social media, right? Maybe this is a byproduct of social media that we're dealing with right now. But a lot of people, instead of picking up the phone and having a conversation one on one, they just say, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to everybody and just blast this opinion out about whatever, you know, and then I said my piece and I'm done, right? Like, to me, I think what we need to work on, or what needs to be um where we need to trend in human society, man, is just picking up the phone, man, and telling people how you feel, you know? And if you know, if people can't do that, then we're gonna always be in this drama situation where now beef gets created, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts, man? Like I said, I like what Kenyon said. I like what he did. Um, but the hands that were behind the situation, like the person that recorded the video, right? And then the way that video was presented to Kenyon and the way it was handled, to me, it was like they were trying to generate clicks, right? That's my opinion on the situation. Could that have been handled in a more uh respectful and adult way? Absolutely. But nonetheless, since people were being sloppy with it with respect to capturing and passing out information and whatnot, I'm thankful that the situation came up the way that it did, because it forces us to address, you know, um, how we interact with each other in society. So, what are your thoughts, man? Put in the comment section. Let me know. Uh, that's all I got, man. Like I said, AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. You can't see it because normally that's where my handles go, and then you don't see my logo up here. I tried, like I said, man, I'm a work in progress. You know, like, matter of fact, all my files are all, because I tried to reorganize my stuff so I could find it easier. But when I did that, it broke all of my links to my my audio, or to my OBS, right? And as a result, I don't have nothing. So I have to actually, let me see if I can do this. Give me a break because I want to make sure I close out. I mean, I'm already done, but my audio is not linked right now for my outro. So yeah, I got to go back and redo that. But you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead, man. I kept y'all long enough, man. AT is where it's at. Like I said before, it's not here, but it's normally right there. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. And without further ado, I'm out of here, folks. Peace. Yep. Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Tripping. Yep. Tripping. Tripping. Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Tripping with Theo Bowl.